Yeah, absolutely excited to have Wrabel on the podcast today. How have things been for you?
What a big question. Overall good. I'm currently taking this from Texas. I'm visiting my family right now, so that's always a nice a nice little breakaway.
Yeah, definitely good to see family, and especially you recently had a new album come out, and how has the rollout been for that? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's been I think I can say this. It's my favorite album yet. Which I guess sort of you hope that the one you just put out is your favorite one,
Yeah,
otherwise maybe
yeah,
don't put it out.
sure.
Um, but no, it's been really, really good. I think this has been a sort of a different process for me. I was so heavily involved in like I wrote probably more than half of it by myself, and co-produced for the first time really ever. So it was something I was sitting on for the process was probably like 2 years or something. So it feels really good to be like, "Oh my gosh, it's out." And then now in the, uh, sort of somewhat cliche thing, we have some more coming,
Of
which is
course.
also really exciting, to kinda see the whole thing. It's such a weird feeling to you put so much into making a record, and then you most often sit with it for at least some extended period of time. Um, so it really does feel good that to be able to like go on the platforms and see it there and see the visuals and see like all this stuff that you worked so hard on. And it's a really nice feeling. So I feel happy. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of like, you talked about sitting with it for a period of time and then, just kind of the visuals. What's like um, the kind of the overarching theme behind it? And, it's very like listening through it, it's very cinematic, very, I don't want to call it existential, but it feels that way at times. You've just kind of talked to us about kind of the themes behind it and what kind of went into your thought process with it all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It did take an existential turn quite literally for me, for lack of of non-cliche. But I had started piecing this together sort of. I saw a thing on the internet in full millennial form. I saw a little infographic that said something like creative people need time to sit around and do nothing. And I personally agree with that really hard.
Right.
Um, and sometimes I can agree with that too much, admittedly. But I am so heavily dependent on sort of the mystical, magical muse of like, where art thou? Where art thou? Like,
Right.
please
Yeah.
channel something through me.
Hmm.
Um, and so I had started this album, I say, out of kind of boredom, out of like idle time. Um, and something sort of started scratching through the inside of my brain. And I sat down and was like, let me see what would come out if I just sat down and made something. I don't really know how to use, I'm digging my computer out of like under my couch, charging it for the first time in 3 years. And so that started this little body of work. I had a working title of Greener, which is based on Greener the song. And in sort of just thinking about life and love and sort of it's such a bizarre thing that like life just goes on and you just are here for it. Sometimes I can take a sort of passive role in it. Um, not even in a bad way, but I sort of like to like look around like a little kid being like, "Ooh, what's over there?" Like, "Oh wow, this is life is just happening everywhere around. I guess I'm here too."
Yeah.
Um and in the wondering of whether you go a little kooks with like quantum theory with it of like parallel universe, parallel reality, or
Mm.
even just like how every decision, I'm a big believer in like every single decision, big or small, you've made has led you to this exact moment and this iteration of reality. Um, and then I read a book called Nuclear War, a Scenario by Annie Jacobson that sort of blew me away. I've read it I keep kind of going back to it and reading like excerpts of like, whoa. And then I got heavy into her I've read every book she's ever written. Highly recommend. If you
Yeah.
like conspiracy, it's not conspiracy, you know, I mean, she's reporting truth,
Hmm.
but like actual historical, not like heavy quotation marks truth. That word gets thrown around a lot. But basically the book is a synopsis of what would happen if there was nuclear war, and it blew me away, and sort of just the utter destruction is what really stuck with me, and it sort of recontextualized the songs that I had been writing, and it really raised the stakes emotionally for me of like, wow, like I couldn't find the direct quote, but somewhere I heard her say something, and she may have been quoting someone else, so this is, you know, this is not mine, but
Hmm.
I don't know whose it is. It was something like, "What's the use in wondering if the grass is greener, if in the end there is no grass at all?" And I was just like, "Okay, let's go with that."
Right. Yeah.
And it just sort of raised the stakes on things, and so there's a lot of like themes of nature, themes of space and sort of unknown, um, and then contrasting that with like themes of basic life and relationship and love and emotion. Um, and it's just sort of an exploration. I don't know that I came to any conclusions, even for myself,
Yeah.
other than like how much more beautiful is something when you really realize it's completely impermanent and could just like, and even if you don't go existential in life, like things can change in amazing ways or in really devastating ways in an instant. And so kind of just exploring that. Um, so yeah, it did for me, it went a little existential. I was like fighting the urge to put on my tinfoil hat and
Hmm.
venture out into the world.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think as millennials, right, like we're almost, we've been indoctrinated into that, like, anything could happen, will happen, as many once in a lifetime events as we've gone through in life, you're kind of stuck with that existential thought of, well, the worst might happen, but in the same sense, maybe the best might happen. And I mess with the whole romanticizing life thing so hard, like just like looking around and that thing exists and it's, oh, okay, it's easy to get lost in at times. And yeah, I think the idea of the things that matter in your life matter because of the fact that they're impermanent, um, is a really beautiful thought. And I think my favorite song off of the album is one that deals in love, and it's called "Birds and the Bees." I would just love, uh, maybe a little more background on that one.
Yeah, thank you so much. That to me is sort of I've been describing it as sort of the pillar. That song I wrote with Austin Ward, who's become a really good friend, and he executive produced the record with me. He touched every song except one, um, "Lack of You," which was Matt Hales produced that. But that song really surprised, I think, both of us, because it was very much, we were in his old studio, which was like this little closet room. It was really a nice closet room, but it was like this little, it was definitely a heavy vibe in there. But he was just playing that guitar, and I started singing, like sort of in the cliche way that everyone describes whenever I'm watching or listening to something. It's like, yeah, I was just kind of humming something, and then some words came out, and then we're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Um, and it really was that. And I think it was a song that I don't always, and at my worst, I've learned to just show up, see what happens, and and leave. And sort of, I try to leave it there and not think too much. I think that's just my bitterness and jadedness at this point of doing
Uh-huh.
this for a long time.
Yeah.
But that song, I knew something happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's, this record is another new aspect of this record for me, was I tried very intentionally to not write in narrative story form, because I think I've done that. I think I just did that enough for myself. It was like, okay, I've told all the stories. I'm not going to go mine this well of my first tumultuous relationship anymore to go, find like, oh, what's on the flip side of that
Right.
stone that I haven't said. And so Birds and Bees was sort of cool because it sort of for me encapsulated that whole thing for me of like I used to write so much about unrequited love and the longing and that's I mean that's a really nice thing to write about because it's
Yeah.
endless. You
Sure.
can just sit in that and wallow away and write infinity songs. And so Birds and Bees for me almost felt like an encapsulation of all of that without it being one literal story. Um, Sort of using this metaphor of love as a bird and I mean heavily influenced by Coldplay, like in also in true millennial form. I just think like I'm so inspired by the writing and the lyrics and the metaphor and the imagery um, of their songs. So yeah, it was sort of heavy on the poetry in that one, and
Hmm.
it really surprised me. Um, it was a song I don't. I think this record is sort of filled with a lot of songs I feel like I hadn't written before, and that was really refreshing. And Birds and Bees in particular was a vibe, and also lyrically something I don't think I had done, but and yet it felt so natural and yeah, so that one and we'd shot a live video, a one take. The director called Elliot was so amazing out in the desert. And that to me is like my favorite video piece. The Village is already solidified as my favorite, but
Right.
like
Right.
right underneath that is the Birds and Bees live video. It just felt like he really was able to capture um whatever that sort of indescribable thing to me that I think that has in
Yeah.
the least egotistical way. It just to me
Yeah.
that song has some sort of
There's something to it. Yeah. I
something's
agree.
in there and I'm like, I don't
Hmm.
know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't know enough about things to try to figure out the right word.
Yeah, and I think that's sometimes the best things about music, right? Is they hit those feelings that maybe we're not entirely sure how to describe with words or any type of way. In terms of you mentioned how this album wasn't really you weren't pulling from personal storytelling. How was that a difficult process in trying to piece that bit together, not necessarily pull from these love stories or experiences that you've gone through, but more at this kind of thought of what could be or what is. And was that a difficult process for you?
It I think once I'm very stubborn and I view stubbornness as I think it's underrated. Um like I'm sober now 11 years and I
Amazing.
kind of give some of that to stubbornness. Like I think there's a positive side of stubbornness, which I guess you could call it will or whatever. I still call it stubbornness because I'm a little brat sometimes. And so I think for me, the first song I wrote for the record was Future, and even just the opening lines, which is like such a, I mean, it is the clicheest cliche of all time. Love is patient, love is kind. I was like, let's go. Where are we going with this? Like, let's go. And once I sort of had established okay, this record kind of exists in outer space. It was my first time sort of, again, everything sounds cliche, I think, when you put it in words, but it was my first time sort of building a world out of like, oh, I know where this album actually lives and I know the colors of it. And I know like even the visuals, my first time really pulling, like I made a mood board where I was like, who am I? Like I had to download Pinterest and find my login from like
Right.
2009. But
Sure.
I think once I sort of made the decision of a lot of my idle time was spent thinking like, what am I gonna write about? Like, I'm so used to writing about unrequited love and heartbreak, and now I'm like, I'm happy. Like, I, it's almost even that's such a cliche thing for an artist to be like, what do I write about when I'm happy? It's like, well, I was almost like, there's sad and happy. I have a tattoo that says happy sad, which I will say predates Casey Musgraves. I love her, but it does predate. Um, there's a movie called Sing Street, is one of my favorite movies ever. It's kind of cheesy, but one of the characters is trying to impress this girl, and she says to him something like, "That's what's wrong with you. You're not okay with being happy and sad at the same time. And that's what love is. Love is happy, sad." And I was just like, like
Yeah.
sobbing on a middle seat flying to Europe, just like this is both peak and like low. So a very long-winded way of saying, I think once I knew what it was, and once I kind of learned what it was really exciting because I'm very much still pulling from truth, like capital T truth to myself of the emotions and the themes. Um, so that part of it felt the same, but then it felt exciting to be like, I'm not going to talk about, what item of clothing someone's wearing because I've done like my living room closet has the red jacket and the sweater and like I'm like, okay, those are literally tucked away in storage. Um, so it was kind of an exciting thing, albeit a little bit frightening maybe because it did feel like this is something I haven't done a bunch. Um, but then even callbacks to like I had a song called Flickers that's one of my favorites ever, and that was very sort of ethereal and theme over story. Um, but yeah, it was sort of I don't think it was necessarily scary. I think it was confusing until I figured out what was going on, and then it was sort of fun to explore like okay, I want to write a song about um not wondering if the grass is greener. Okay, how do you do that in an without being like literally talk about where you think the grass might be greener? And you could do that in a really literal sense. Um, or you could go into like the grass. Okay, let's talk about the grass. Like, but it was sort of like, hold on, let me zoom out because this album's in outer space. Oh, okay. If I'm in outer space, then what does the grass look like? It's sort of I don't know. I went very like woo woo kind of in the process of like,
Right.
and I do think I got everyone that worked on the record, this little man that's sitting on the moon giving the peace sign. And I remember sending one to Damian Taylor, who did additional production and mixing. He's amazing, like guru, true guru. And I remember sending it to him early on in the mix process and being like, it's just to remind you that this record's in outer space. Like you're sitting on the moon mixing this. And he was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like you get to look over at this little man and be like, oh yeah, outer space.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even doing that, right? That kind of like, it has to like challenge like your own, um, feelings on things and really, you kind of find out like maybe some new perspectives that you didn't really think about before on things. And I think that's a really interesting piece of songwriting. Like oftentimes people do pull from like these very personal experiences, but being able to like zoom out on general ideas, maybe you kind of find out a little bit more about yourself that you wouldn't really think about in that idle time. Because I know me in my idle time, I oftentimes am just anxious because I'm not doing something. Being idle is
Yeah.
very a very tough process for me. Uh, so yeah, I think it's really cool to have that perspective and that little bit of self reflection, even to find those how you feel about these things that are when you look at them up close, right? It's very simple and straightforward, but maybe zooming out and it creates this whole different side of things.
Yeah, it, it also, I think, left a lot of room for, again, for lack of non cliche, like for poetry and for metaphor and for, um, like it makes me think Shape of My Heart, I think is my favorite lyric on the album. And that was a wild one too. And that was a hill that I would, the vocal effect on that, like the first few people I sent it to, they were like, "Who's this girl singing though? Like, are you gonna record it?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"That's me." I just clicked a lot of different things, and I
right.
don't know what I clicked. And when we went into the mixing process, I was like, "I'm not gonna sing this again. Like, this is how I want it." Um, but the lyrically on that was really a fun that was a really fun one to sit down and write. Because I think there was a lot of, I don't know, it feels like proverbs or something where I was like, whoa, where are you going with this? Um, and yeah, like you said, kind of zooming out, I did learn and it was fun to discover and sort of explore. Like, how do you feel about this?
Yeah. Has you've been releasing music, geez, for over a decade now, I believe. Has your approach to like production and how things are mixed on the album changed over those 10 years?
Yeah, I think, um, yes, definitely. I think this was the first time I sort of grabbed that and sort of was like, I want to be involved in this and I want to sort of um, dictate what this sounds like uh, and what it feels like. To me, production is framing the song with feeling and with mood and with um, so it's not it should never to me it should never be something that the song relies on, at least in my own art. I do plenty of like EDM stuff and features and whatever where it's like, no, take this one line and then produce all around it and make it what that's the thing. But for me, the lyric is the anchor, and then the melody is sort of how you're hearing that, and then the production is the the larger frame of whatever, like the
Yeah.
background of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, where it's like, are we in the city? Are we in the country? Like, where are
Right.
we?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely changed in that I think this record, although it's still, it's still glossy and still like kind of high def in ways, I think I wanted to have it be a little more homegrown feeling and like, even like the drop on Shape of My Heart, like I made that like on my living room floor, like sitting there with like, and I was just like, this is awesome, and I wanted to keep the feeling of that kind of across the board. Um, but yeah, I think the least glossy record that I've put out. And I do love gloss. Like I love when it just feels and sounds. You're like, ooh, that's like tickling my little brain.
Yeah.
But I think I wasn't chasing anything on this album, and that to me was the most liberating thing. And I think that dictated and left a lot of freedom for the production to be whatever it's going to be. Because
Yeah.
I think I was more in the past. I've gone in like, I want to do a song like this that sounds like this and that feels like this. And this album was very much like, I have no idea what I want to do. So let's make make turn all the things on and let's just play with things and see what happens and follow where it feels good. So I think that was kind of the biggest difference.
I love that. So even like across the 10 years plus that you've been making music, like the scene in general has changed, right? Like social media has become like the be all end all of fields. How does I guess like how do you feel about the social media aspect of being an artist, and have you found an approach that feels uh comfortable to you?
No. Um I I'm I have fought against TikTok a lot. Um just to be very honest, I think, and I sort of have always held this thing of like, it has become the end all be all, but I don't think that it is. Like
Yeah.
I've never quite believed that part of it. I'm kind of like, I get it. And I've found artists on there that I love now. I've found artists that have become, collaborators from
Yeah.
scrolling through TikTok. And you're like, oh my God, what is this song? And I think it's cool that that can happen. And there can be so much discovery, but I don't know if it's just by millennialism, but like, it's not a music discovery app. It's not, it has nothing to do with music. And I don't say it with some, pinkies up, like I'm an artiste. Like, no, I'm down to clown and I've done the trends and whatever,
Sure.
but I've been really quiet for kind of like a couple months, which is funny because we just put out the album, and I'm kind of like, I think I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I love Instagram. I make all these little lyric videos, and like that part's been really fun. And even on a very like, uh, I like evidence. And so if I look at I looked at Instagram and I looked at TikTok, and I would run my own little experiments and be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to make my weird little thing with my sort of silly spotlight that I bought off the TikTok shop. And I'm going to grain it up, and I'm going to put on my new Marnie sweater, and I'm going to make this video, and I'm going to get the lyrics like a little French movie, and I'm going to put it on both. And Instagram, I'm going to go look at the insights, and I'm going to see, oh my gosh, I posted this lyric video of this second verse of Birds and the Bees. Oh my gosh, I got 4 followers from this.
Right.
That's not a million followers,
Sure.
but 4 people saw my music and read my lyrics and said, "Oh, I want to find out more." TikTok, it's like you get 376 views,
Yeah.
15 likes, 1 save that's probably my friend, and
Right.
not like I do kind of go in, what is it, cost benefit analysis or whatever, of like, I think for a while I was really like, oh, what's gonna work on TikTok? And then it's like, I don't know. And like I personally, and I've worked with people that are so good at it and have this way of really actually translating into this through the world, into listeners, people at their shows, and all that. And so like I don't diss it, but I don't personally think it has all the power that I think we've given it. Because like my algorithm isn't not a lot of music. My algorithm's a lot of like weird government conspiracy. Like it's just fascinating that it became like the new thing, and then like it does have its own powers and stuff. But I don't know. All just to say, I rage against TikTok. And I still participate, but I think it's about, I learned to just do stuff that I think is pretty or nice or meaningful in some way, or like I make my little video. I'll spend like an hour making this little 30-second video, and I'll be like, I love this video.
Right.
And when I do that, then I don't really care if
Right.
376 people watch it, because I'm like, I love that. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a girl on TikTok, Jane Lee. I think the handle is Indie Baby Mama or Indie Mama. Mm. I don't have the greatest memory, but I saw one video. She's really great, and has such a nice little community of independent artists, just kind of talking shop and being like, it's nice because it's almost like going to an AA meeting where you realize you're not the only one. Like I remember traveling in my early sobriety and being in like what some random country or some random state and being like, I feel crazy. You go to AA meeting, you're like, oh my God, we're all nuts. I love it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
the only one.
Right.
And I think her community, for me, it's been helpful in that sense of being like, oh, we're all just flailing around like one of those things at the used car dealership,
Yeah. Yeah.
being like, listen to my music.
Right. Yeah.
And
This is so funny.
it's nice because I think like, and less in sometimes a refreshing way, and sometimes in a way where I do miss, the olden days where we didn't share so much. But
Right.
I do feel like sometimes as artists, we feel a pressure to like portray as if like everything's awesome and like everyone loves my music and like I'm doing great and like I love every aspect of what is happening. And then now you go on TikTok and it's like artists being like, F this, screw this, like this sucks. And
Right.
so I think there's a balance, and it takes all of that. But it's just a wacky, it's a wacky time. I think it is really different. And it can feel like you're screaming into the void.
Yeah.
And that does suck. And I think we have to like acknowledge that. Um, but I just kind of have learned over the years to just keep, to me, I boil things down to, I mean, even back to stubbornness, shout out stubbornness. Like,
Yeah.
I'm either going to continue or I'm going to not continue. Okay. If I'm going to continue, then continue. And then it's like, okay, I'm not going to not continue. What is
Yeah.
that? Like, I don't
Right.
want to know what that's like.
No, nobody does. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go continue and adapt and learn and course correct. I think with TikTok, I think a lot of us went really hard in the paint and then maybe have learned like, ooh, I don't know if I needed to do all that. And maybe I sort of watered down something, or maybe I picked one aspect of myself and just did that over and over and over and over and over and over. And that's not great either. It's just such a weird thing once you start playing with it, because then all of a sudden you're doing a dance in your kitchen, you're being like a chef, you're being like a workout
You're everything.
queen,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're being like a comedian. And so I've just tried to be like, I've done some funny videos of things that I think are funny. Like I did one about not being afraid of my air fryer because I used to do crystal meth and that did pretty good. And I'm like, that's like funny and it didn't feel cringe because it's literally, it was a real conversation I had with someone over an air
Right.
fryer where
Yeah.
she's like, the heavy metals. And I was like, girl, I tell you what I'm not scared of is a heavy metal. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I'm not afraid of.
Right.
Um, if you want to talk about like the size of the universe and or or the nuclear weapons that exist in this world,
Yeah,
then
that's
I
a
can
little
go to town.
scary.
But like
Right.
I'm like the Ninja air fryer, like we're chilling. I don't
Yeah.
know. It crisps that salmon skin up so nice. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's funny.
it's just a weird. I never want to feel distracted by social media, I think is what it boils down to for me. I'd rather sort of just not.
Yeah.
And
I
I
feel
know
that.
sometimes you have to participate and I don't want to, I try to not do it begrudgingly anymore. I try to wait until something is like, oh, this is funny. I have like a note running of like, oh, that would be a fun video. But like even a few months ago, I was like, I love clothes. And I have like, I call it an archive at this point, but my
Yeah.
second bedroom is like I capital L love clothes. I think it's just amazing. I think it's so fun and it's so I find a lot of identity in playing with different things and being like, who do I want to be today? Like,
Yeah.
it's so the world is mine. And I was like, I'm going to start posting my clothes. And then it's like, okay, I did that. And then it's like 2 weeks later, I'm like, well, I posted my clothes. So yeah. And I just feel like all of that can become a distraction. So I just try to have fun with it and do things that feel natural at this point. And I'm willing to live without whatever TikTok virality has to offer, I think. Because I've also seen it. And then I started making rants to artists, which actually was probably the most fun thing I did. Because I was just being like, what are we doing? What are we all doing?
Right.
And why are we doing it?
Yeah.
Like, because I do think no matter what you're doing, if the intention or the callback is not to your music and you're a musician, then what is it? And I don't say that with judgment, but I say that with genuine confusion of like, what are we doing then? Because even if you're building numbers from doing a workout, that's great. You look amazing. I love that. I'm going to try that move next time I whip out my yoga mat. But like, where, what, how did we get here? And where is it going? And what am I coming back to? Because I don't know. TikTok is an audition. Every video is going to a stranger first. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, I never want to post on TikTok again. Whereas like Instagram, you post your pretty little pic that's like all nice and moody. You put your little song on it. And it goes to the people that clicked follow.
Yep.
It goes to the people that are interested,
Yep.
or at least at one point were interested
Yeah.
in what you're doing, what your life is. Like, it's so different, and that just can really mess with your brain. And I've seen artists even change the way that they're writing and the way and what they're writing to pander to the audition crowd of like, you need the hook within the first 3 seconds. You need the like, so then you say some like crazy statement at second one of your video. And then I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then I'm like, wait, how did we get here? And like,
Yeah.
I think, and there are certain types of artists where that works really well. And again, I don't say this like with any judgment. There are people that have made their entire living on TikTok. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you did it. Like,
Yeah.
go off. But I think for a lot of us that started pre all of this, where it was like a grid post is like your like statement, like one a month, and you're like, here's my grid post. Look at that cup of coffee I just drank. Or
Yeah.
like, here's the studio that I'm working in. And you're like, yeah, with your little headphones.
Right.
It's just really, it moves so fast now. And I think you can get caught up in that and everybody's different. And again, no judgment. I do want to stress that because sometimes that can be a petty little B word, but I really mean it with no judgment. I just think for me, if I put one foot in there, I'm in there and I don't know where I am and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm losing sleep over what's a TikTok idea that would be really good. And I'm like, oh my God, who cares? Like, you made a record. There's also so much, I think, that we lose perspective of everything that's outside of that. Of like, go play a show, go work with a new person. Like, there's so much that you can do outside of that I think
Yeah.
that can take up all the space and all the air. And that does sort of make me sad when I've seen myself do it, where I'm worrying more about TikTok than the song.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
the song is,
What matters
it's
the
the
most, right?
song.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as long as artists can find a place where they feel comfortable with whatever they're kind of putting out in terms of socials, I think that's probably the best space. Like whether or not it does well is like, yeah, you're right. Shouldn't be on the forefront of your headspace as a musician. And it's definitely a world I do not, envy to participate in that space as a, as an artist. It would drive me insane. In terms of, I guess, in terms of any song, in your discography, what song are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of The Village. And forever I will be.
Yeah.
I don't see myself. I say that in a good, not in a negative way, but in a really
Yeah.
positive way. I don't see myself ever outdoing is the wrong word, because that song was, I think that song changed um a lot for me outside of music. Like within music, yes, of I didn't know, it was my first time trying to write someone else's story, kind of trying to take the light of like the spotlight and be like, hold on, I want to tell this, but that's not mine.
Yeah.
Um, there's some overlap, but I'm not going to claim it as mine. So how do you go about doing that? And also just the purpose for me. I think I wrote that song for two people,
Yeah.
period. I never thought I would release it. I didn't think anything beyond, I met these two people. It was on my first, I've told the story many times. Forgive me if anyone
You're
has
good.
heard this, but I wrote it. It was two trans kids I met on my first tour ever. It was my first time like having like fans. It feels so weird. And so I went outside the stage door after my set, and there were these two kids waiting to meet me. And I was so used to it was my first tour. And so I was so used to people being like, do you know where the headliner is? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just going to go back in my bus and like watch Friends again and like go to bed. I don't. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, like we love your songs." Da, da, da." And I got to hang out with them, and some of their friends and family were there, and so I was talking with them. I don't fans is weird, and I don't have like that. I don't have a thing of like, well, you know, we're different because you're my fan. I'm just like, hey, what's up? Like, you're cool. Let's hang out. Um, and so it was the day that federal protections for trans students was taken out of public schools. And so I was talking to them and kind of just hearing what it was like to actually back to perspective to zoom in on that outside of a news headline. Cause like you said, I think millennials have a unique thing of where we've learned just like the worst thing probably might happen. And
Yeah.
then maybe it'll be fine, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And and it can desensitize you to like you see a headline and you're like, oh, okay, next TikTok, and it's
Right.
Bethany Frankel screaming about Chanel, and you're like, oh, okay, next. Like it's just so disorienting. And so it really broke my heart to hear what it actually felt like. That headline trickled down to reality really broke my heart. And so I was on my way to the studio and we wrote this song and to send to them. I kind of was like, hey, I really want to write this song for these two kids, like just to be like, I'm going to DM it to them just so that they hopefully maybe feel like somebody cares about this because it's insane. And like to show them that it's not everybody. And so I wrote it and one of them was like, dude, you have to put this out. And I was like, okay, dude. And so we put it out and that song still to this day, like it blows my mind that people are still hearing it for the first time. The stories that come along with that. And it just, it's not mine. It feels in this beautiful way. Like I don't feel like I wrote it. Like it just feels like not a song, if that makes sense. And I don't say any of this with like, ooh, whatever. It just to me, music is so one of the most powerful things about it is that it can actually change a human's life. Like there are songs that literally, I mean, literally have saved my physical, actual life and my
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah.
And it's really wild to see what that song has been able to do and continues to do. So that is my proudest, and I think will always be.
Yeah. And I think just like you said, it just speaks to the absolute power that music holds. And yeah, I can only imagine the feeling that like uh that it gives you and then the hope that it gives everybody else. So yeah, I think perfect pick, obviously.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so in terms of, I live my life in music curation. So I always ask everybody, a song or a project that you've been really into recently.
I am so bad at listening to new music,
It's
so I often am going back
fine. Yeah.
to my faves, and one of my like top, let's say top 10, top 20 songs ever is an artist called Kindness and a song called House that I just sort of have been getting back. It was like an a reawakening or a rediscovery of like I'm usually listening to like a podcast or a Cardi B. And so or my faves, and so it's like I sort of the other day was driving to lunch and I was like, oh, I haven't listened to that song in a long time. And then it was just looped for the whole drive. And I was like, oh man. And I'm sending it to all my friends, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Right.
So Kindness, song's called House. Just really spectacular. Very good.
Amazing. So I guess in terms of, wrapping up, what can, the album's out. You talked maybe about some new music coming out. What can fans look forward to?
Yes, I have a tour coming up supporting Oh Wonder, which I'm really excited about. And then, yeah, we're going to be putting out some new music, sort of it's all part of the same record. Um, we broke it up in sort of the way that things get broken up, but it's going to slot in as um, as a as it should be, as
Mhm.
it is, and as it should be, and
Right.
heaven on earth, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm really excited to kind of feel like the completion of the record for me. So there are some more songs coming, uh, and some of my I mean, they're all my faves. This album, I really can say that like these are my favorite songs
Yeah.
because I set the bar um, as that for this one. So yeah, I'm really I can't wait for the tour. Touring is very difficult, but I think it's going to be really special, um, and I'm excited.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to me, and yeah, can't wait to hear the new music.
For sure, you too. I really appreciate the time.